Hello Space Cats! In this week's news, Blue Origin announced in a press event that they have a new vehicle planned to land on the moon. In this week's video, we're going to talk about who exactly Blue Origin is and why what they're doing is super exciting for space and mankind. So let's jump right into it. Blue Origin is a privately funded space company founded by Jeff Bezos in the year 2000, but it only unsurfaced to the general public in 2015. He believes that in order to preserve the Earth, we need to tap into the resources and the energy available in outer space. There is no planet B, but we can move our damaging industries to outer space where mankind can grow and we can preserve the Earth. They focus on reusable launch vehicles as a gateway to colonizing the solar system. And to do this, they're focusing on rocket-powered launch vehicles, vertical takeoff, vertical landing vehicles. You might not have heard of Blue Origin before, but most certainly you've heard of Amazon. The online retailer began in 1994 as an online bookstore in Jeff's garage. Today, it's the largest internet company based on revenue. But Jeff Bezos has always had an interest in space travel, and when he was 18, he was quoted saying that eventually he wants to build space hotels, space amusement parks, and space colonies. The whole idea is to preserve the Earth, and Blue Origin was named for that. The blue dot represents Earth, the origin of all mankind. Blue Origin, like Amazon, shares the same values. They want to bring low-cost, on-time launches to space. New Shepard is a suborbital rocket system. That means it's powerful enough to get to outer space, but not quite powerful enough to do a complete orbit of the Earth. It's designed to take astronauts and research payloads past the Kármán line. This is the internationally recognized boundary of outer space, and it's also completely controlled by onboard computers. New Shepard is named after the Mercury astronaut Alan Shepard, the first American in space. And to date, it's had 10 consecutively successful launchings and landings, with 2 of those boosters having been reused 5 times each. Despite its small size, it uses a hydrogen propellant and a vertical landing. Everything learned from New Shepard will go into the development of New Glenn. And last year, Jeff Bezos announced that commercial spaceflight on this rocket will cost between $200,000 and $300,000. New Glenn is named after the pioneering astronaut John Glenn, the first American to orbit the Earth. It's a heavy lift launch vehicle, so kind of like SpaceX's Falcon Heavy. It has over 6 times the height of the 15-meter New Shepard rocket. It has 2 times the volume of any launch vehicle to date, and this is really important because most flights today are volume limited and not mass limited. This rocket can take humans into Earth orbit and beyond, and it can be reused up to 25 times. In 2021, this rocket will fly for the very first time. Currently, space travel is extremely expensive. It costs $10,000 just to launch 1 kilogram of weight, and $220 million to launch an Ariane 5 rocket. But space travel shouldn't be so expensive. The fuel, the natural gas, costs less than $1 million. The most expensive thing about space travel at the moment is that we throw away our hardware, the rocket. If you imagine having a car and throwing it away and getting a new one every time you got to your destination, it wouldn't be very economical, would it? We can build reusable rockets, but we can also make more fuel elsewhere in the solar system, like on the moon. On the moon, there's water ice in the poles, in permanently shadowed craters, which we can mine for fuel. On the moon, the gravity is 6 times less than that on Earth, so it would also be easier to launch and cheaper to launch from there. It's also very nearby, and we can go there at any time. It only lacks infrastructure. Once we have infrastructure in place, we can think of the moon as like a petrol station where we refuel our rockets before launching out further into the solar system. It's not the beer, but the beer company did get in on the action too. Blue Moon is a lunar lander capable of taking astronauts and payloads to the lunar surface with a soft landing. It will probably launch on the New Glenn rocket because it's so large that it wouldn't fit in any other launch vehicle. On its way to the moon, it can also deploy satellites and other payloads into orbit around the moon from its payload bays. The top deck of the lander is a payload area that stores things like rovers. 4 of these rovers can be taken at a time to the moon, and then the davit system will lower the rovers down to the lunar surface. It also has star trackers so it can navigate around in space. To communicate to Earth, it has lasers and radio antenna, and it also has a LiDAR system, which is kind of like a radar but with lasers. This allows it to map the terrain, and the machine learning algorithms on board will use this to navigate around by looking for known craters. Blue Moon mostly uses liquid hydrogen propellant and the BE-7 engine to descend to the moon. This engine has an incredibly high throttle, which gives it incredible control. And this is really important because the lander starts off weighing 15,000 kilograms. But on descent, it burns up so much fuel that it ends up weighing only 3,000 kilograms. The power on board is generated from hydrogen fuel cells, which is much more efficient than solar cells because the lunar night lasts 2 weeks long. It's also refuelable. Blue Origin have been working on this lander for 3 years now, and it should be ready by 2024, which is exactly the goal set by the US government to return to the moon. The BE-7 engine will have its first test this summer, so make sure you look out for it. Let me know in the comment section below what you think about humans returning to the moon. And if you enjoyed this video, make sure you like, share, and subscribe.